The crash was hard. Jason Raynor felt his body slam against the seat as the emergency systems failed. Smoke filled the cockpit. Sparks flew from broken panels. He grabbed his helmet and stumbled out of the ruined dropship, coughing and limping. His ship was done. No way it would fly again. The sky above him was a pale blue, but the sun looked wrong. He checked his wrist computer. The planet was a forgotten moon in an empty sector. No cities, no signals, just the wreck of an old alien war. Jason looked around. Towers of metal and stone poked out of the ground. Broken domes, cracked glass, and shattered statues told him one thing. This place was once important, maybe even royal. But now, it was quiet. Empty. He decided to search. If he wanted to survive, he needed shelter, food, and maybe a working transmitter. Hours passed as Jason moved through the ruins. Strange alien carvings covered the walls. Fallen robots lay everywhere. He found a room filled with rusted machines and a cracked throne. The smell of dust and time was thick. Then he heard it, a soft sound, a beep, a faint voice, weak and unsure. "Help! Please!" Jason spun around. He raised his plasma cutter just in case. But there was no danger, just a quiet, broken voice coming from deeper inside. He followed the sound down a dark hallway. Light flickered from old energy crystals. At the end of the hallway, he saw her. She was lying in a half-crushed hover chair, surrounded by debris. She had pale purple skin, long silver hair, and soft teal eyes full of pain and fear. Her body didn't move. Only her eyes blinked. One small screen on her chair still worked. "Alive," she whispered. "Are you real?" Jason dropped his tool and rushed forward. "Hey, I'm here. Don't move." She gave a sad smile. "I haven't moved in years." Jason carefully cleared the rubble. The hover chair was old but still had some power. He checked her vitals. Her heart was slow, her breathing shallow, but she was alive. "Name?" Jason asked gently. "Leora," she whispered. "I was once princess of the Thalkiri Empire." Jason stared. He had heard of the Thalkiri, a proud alien race, once rulers of many systems, but they lost everything after a civil war, and now one of them, a princess, was here, alone. Paralyzed, he gave her water from his pack. She drank slowly, tears falling down her cheeks. "You're human," she said, voice shaking. "Yeah. Jason Raynor, mechanic and survivor." "You are the first person I've seen in 5 years," she said. "They all left. My people, my guards, even my family." "Why?" Jason asked. "I couldn't walk. They said I was useless, a burden. They fled when the palace was attacked, left me to die." Jason felt a tight knot in his chest. He had seen war. He had seen cruelty. But this was something else. "I won't leave you," he said. She blinked. "Why?" "Because you're still alive." Jason set up a small camp in the chamber. He gave her food paste and hooked her chair to his emergency battery. Slowly, the power came back. Each day, he worked on fixing things. Her chair, the broken power grid, and even the ventilation system. He wasn't a doctor, but he cleaned her wounds and helped her stay healthy. She started talking more. "I once sat on a throne," she said softly one night. "Now I sit in a chair that cannot even float on its own." "You still have a voice," Jason said. "That means you still have power." Leora laughed for the first time. It was soft, but real. "You speak like a hero." "No," Jason replied. "Just a stubborn human who doesn't like giving up." Days turned into weeks. Jason built a simple wheelchair that rolled over the smooth palace floors. He created a small arm with a spoon so she could feed herself. Her smile grew stronger each day. "I feel Awake again, Leora said one evening. For so long I was just waiting to die. Jason sat beside her, sipping recycled water. You're not dying. Not on my watch. Jason, she asked, why are humans so strange? How so? You help others without asking for anything. You fix things, you stay. Jason thought for a moment. Maybe because we've been alone too. On Earth we had wars, pain. But we learned to rebuild, to care. Leora nodded. I like that. One morning, Jason found a small alien drone still working. He repaired its signal relay and sent out a long-range SOS. But he knew help might take months, maybe more. Still, he wasn't afraid. He had food, water, and power. And he had her. One night, while stars blinked above the broken dome, Leora stared up. I used to dream of flying ships, royal banquets, and noble husbands, she said. Got none of those now, Jason said with a grin. No, she smiled. Now I have a broken palace, a chair, and a stubborn mechanic. And I think I prefer it. Jason looked at her. Her silver hair shimmered. Her teal eyes glowed softly. She was beautiful, not in a grand, royal way, but in a quiet, natural way. He realized something then. She wasn't just a mission. She wasn't just someone to save. She had become someone he wanted to stay with. Leora turned her head slowly to face him. Her voice was soft, almost a whisper. Jason, may I ask something strange? Anything, he said. If we stay here forever, or if we are saved, would you... She hesitated. Her cheeks turned a light shade of purple. Would you have a child with me? Jason froze. He blinked, unsure if he heard right. I don't mean just a child, she said quickly. In my culture, to ask this means I want to be bonded, to stay with you, to build a life together. Jason looked at her. She wasn't joking. Her eyes were full of feeling, full of hope. I want to be by your side, she said, not as a broken princess, but as someone who chooses you. Jason didn't know what to say, but deep down, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Maybe he could choose her too. Jason sat beside Princess Leora, the alien woman who had once ruled stars, now asking him the most unexpected question of his life. Would you have a child with me? She had asked softly. The campfire flickered between them, casting warm light across her calm face. She looked at him, not with sadness, not with fear, but with quiet strength. She wasn't begging. She wasn't weak. She was simply asking to live again. Jason's heart pounded in his chest. He didn't answer right away. He didn't want to say the wrong thing. So, he nodded slowly and whispered, I need time to think. Leora smiled gently. Of course. I waited 5 years in silence. I can wait a little more. Over the next few days, Jason kept himself busy. He explored deeper parts of the ruined palace. Some areas had working solar panels, which he carefully reconnected to charge their gear. He found old Thalkiri records and learned more about Leora's people. They had once been proud, elegant, and deeply traditional. One scroll caught his attention. It explained their bond ritual. In Thalkiri culture, asking someone to have a child was more than love. It was a life vow. It meant, I choose you for eternity. I will not leave, no matter what comes. Jason sat with those thoughts for a long time. He remembered Earth, broken cities, war zones, people who left each other when things got hard. But this woman, who couldn't even walk, was choosing to stay. With him, why? Because he stayed first. That evening he returned to her side with warm food and soft blankets. Leora sat in the modified hover chair he had repaired, her eyes looking up at the stars through the broken glass dome. They're beautiful, she said. But cold? Yeah, Jason nodded. Beautiful things usually are. She turned, her head slightly. You've been thinking. He sat beside her. Yes. And? Jason looked into her eyes. You surprised me. I didn't expect that question. I know. But you weren't asking for romance. You were asking for hope. For a reason to stay alive. Leora nodded slowly. I still can't walk. I may never walk again. I can't offer you a strong mate or a perfect life. All I have is myself, and a heart that still beats because of you. Jason smiled. Then let's keep that heart beating. The next day, Jason started rebuilding more parts of the palace. Not for escape, but for a home. He restored a small garden room and grew earth crops using leftover seeds from his emergency pack. He cleaned an old bathing chamber and warmed the water with solar coils. He added a soft cushion to her chair, printed new clothes from survival fabric, and even carved her name into the wall. Why are you doing all this? She asked one morning. Because you asked me something big, Jason said. And before I answer fully, I want you to know how serious I take it. You're building a home, she whispered. Yes, for us. Leora touched her lips softly. Her voice trembled. I forgot what it felt like to be cared for. Jason reached out and gently held her hand. Then I'll remind you every day. Later that week, Jason fixed a communication console he found buried in the Royal Archives. He wasn't sure how old it was, but he connected it to his own transmitter. Together, they tried to reach any nearby ships. No signal yet, Jason said. It's okay, Leora replied. If no one comes, I still have you. Jason smiled but stayed quiet. He still didn't know what the future held. But he knew one thing for sure. He didn't want to leave her behind. One night, while he was recharging their food generator, they heard something strange. A noise, a crunching sound, heavy footsteps. Jason froze. Outside the palace walls, shadows moved. Scavengers. Jason pulled Leora's chair into the garden chamber and closed the thick doors. Stay here, he said. Jason, no. He placed a hand on her cheek. I won't let anything happen to you. Then he grabbed his plasma cutter and left. Outside, 3 alien scavengers, tall, covered in armor, moved through the palace, searching for rare tech. They didn't expect resistance. They laughed and kicked over statues. Jason crept behind a column and threw a noise grenade across the room. It popped and drew their attention away. Using speed and strategy, Jason led them into one of the old defense rooms, now filled with traps he had set weeks earlier. 2 got caught in the electrified net. The third chased Jason deeper into the ruins. But Jason turned a corner and ambushed him with a heavy pipe. The scavenger fell with a crash. Jason stood over him, panting. Stay down! When he returned to Leora, he was scratched and tired, but smiling. They're gone, he said. She looked at him with wide eyes. You could have died. But I didn't. Because I promised you something, remember? Her lip trembled. I don't deserve this. Yes, he said firmly. You do. Later that night, she asked again, but this time in a whisper, as he sat beside her holding her hand. Jason, my body is broken, but I want to feel alive again. I want to give life. I want something that is part of me and part of you. Jason looked into her eyes. You're not broken, Leora. You're brave. You didn't give up. That's more strength than any soldier I've met. He squeezed her hand. I won't lie. This is all new to me. A human and a Thalkiri having a child? I don't even know if it's possible. We can try, she said. With science. With faith, he nodded. Then let's try. Together. Leora smiled, tears falling down her cheeks. Not of sadness, but of joy. You said my heart still beats, she whispered. And now, Jason said, brushing her hair, Back, it beats with mine. That night they sat beneath the stars again. But this time, not as survivor and princess, as partners, and maybe soon, as parents of a new future. Days passed since Leora asked Jason to have a child with her. The mood between them was softer now, deeper. There were no more walls, no more fear of speaking the truth. They worked side by side every day. Jason repaired more rooms of the ancient palace while Leora guided him using her memory of the place. She knew every hallway, every corner, every hidden door. She couldn't walk, but she helped him build, with her voice, with her heart. In the quiet evenings, they talked. Not about war or survival anymore, but about the future. I've sent out 3 different signals now, Jason said, checking the communication panel. Still no reply? Leora asked. Nothing yet. But that's okay. I'm not in a rush to leave. She looked at him for a moment. Neither am I. They sat under the half-broken dome again, looking at the stars. Leora said, You're different from other humans I've heard about. Jason smiled. That's because you've only met soldiers, fighters. I'm just a mechanic. No, she said. You're more than that. You fix things, but you also heal. Not just machines, people too. Jason turned to her. You know, when I first crashed here, I thought I'd die alone. But now I can't imagine leaving without you. She smiled softly. Then don't. The next morning, Jason brought her something special. A small device with glowing lights and a soft pulse. What's this? Leora asked. A human medical scanner. It checks DNA. I fixed it yesterday. He paused, then said carefully, We can use it to see if our species are compatible. Leora's eyes widened. You mean, to know if I can have your child? Yes. Her voice trembled. I'm ready. Jason gently placed the device near her neck. The machine beeped and buzzed as it scanned her. Then he scanned himself. A minute later, a green light blinked on the screen. He looked at her, surprised. We're compatible. Leora's eyes filled with tears. Then, it's possible? Jason nodded. Yes, we can have a child. She covered her mouth with her hand and cried, not from sadness, but from relief. Thank you, Jason. Thank you for believing in me. He sat beside her and held her gently. This isn't just about making a child. This is about making a promise, to build something together. Leora looked up at him. Then I make that promise now. I choose you. Forever, Jason whispered. I choose you too. After that day, they began preparing for the future. Jason converted an old medical room into a safe space for Leora's care. He cleaned it, lit it with soft lights, and brought every tool, scanner, and monitor he could find. I want you to be comfortable, he said. She smiled. I already am. You're here. But Jason wasn't done. He worked day and night on a secret project. He wouldn't tell her what it was. He only said, It's something special. For you. One evening, Leora called him to her side. She looked tired but calm. I've been thinking, she said, about who I used to be. I was born in a palace, raised to rule. But I never knew love, only duty. Jason listened quietly. I was never allowed to choose, she continued. But now I've made my first true choice. And it was you. Jason touched her hand. I didn't choose you because you're a princess. I chose you because you're strong. Because even when your world broke, you didn't give up. Tears filled her eyes. I thought I was broken. But you helped me feel whole again. Oh. Few days later, Jason completed his surprise. He brought her to the old garden room, now fully cleaned and filled with flowers and glowing stones. In the center was a beautiful symbol, a mix of earth and Thalkiri design carved into the stone floor. What is this? She asked. Our bonding place, Jason said. In your culture, it's done with rituals. In mine, it's done with rings. But I thought, why not create our own? She smiled through tears. It's beautiful. He stepped in front of her and took a deep breath. Princess Leora of the Thalkiri, will you stay by my side? Will you help build a new life? A new beginning? With love, with hope, and with a family? She reached up slowly with her robotic arm and placed her hand on his cheek. Yes, Jason Raynor, I choose you. And I accept your promise. That night, the stars felt warmer. The wind felt softer. Jason and Leora lay in the garden chamber, hands linked. No words were needed. Their hearts spoke for them. The next week brought a challenge. Leora's energy levels dropped. Her old injuries began to flare. Jason panicked and stayed by her side every hour. He repaired the chair again and gave her better medicine. I'm sorry, she whispered. My body is still weak. But your will is strong, Jason said. And I won't leave you. Not now, not ever. He stayed up for 3 nights straight, adjusting her chair, building new supports, and even learning alien medical codes from the old data crystals. Finally, on the 4th day, she opened her eyes and smiled. You kept your promise, she whispered. Always, he replied. One morning, as Jason brought her warm tea, Leora looked out at the garden and said, Do you hear that? Hear what? Jason asked. A sound, faint, but real. Jason listened. Then he heard it too, a signal, a repeating tone. He rushed to the comm station. The scanner showed a small human patrol ship entering the system. They found us, Jason said. Leora looked nervous. What happens now? Jason smiled. Now we go home. Together. The human patrol ship slowly entered the ruined skies of the ancient Thalkiri moon. Its lights swept across the broken towers and fallen statues. The ship wasn't large, just a scout vessel with basic equipment. But to Jason and Leora, it looked like hope. Jason stood on top of a tall platform near the palace garden, waving a bright flare. His heart raced. It had been many months since he had seen another human. This was the moment he had waited for, but also feared. Would they accept Leora? Would they understand what she had become to him? He glanced back at her. She sat in her hover chair, her silver hair gently blowing in the wind, her teal eyes watching the sky with quiet emotion. She looked calm, but Jason could tell. She was scared too. I'll speak for both of us, Jason said. Leora nodded. I trust you. The scout ship landed gently in the courtyard. A ramp opened and 3 humans stepped out. 2 officers in uniform and 1 doctor with a scanning device. Jason saluted. Jason Raynor, ship engineer, reporting in. The lead officer, Captain Mora, looked surprised. You're alive? We thought your ship was destroyed during the Union skirmish. What is this place? Jason took a deep breath. This is the former palace of the Thalkiri Empire. The soldiers glanced around at the alien ruins, confused. And who is she? The doctor asked, pointing to Leora. Jason turned toward her. This is Princess Leora, the last of the Thalkiri royal family. She was left behind by her people. I found her here. She's under my care. The humans stared in shock. One of the soldiers whispered, That species was our enemy during the last rebellion. Jason raised his voice firmly. She's not our enemy. She's not a threat. She's a survivor, just like me, the captain frowned. And what exactly is your relationship with this alien? Jason looked straight at them. She's my partner, and she's carrying my child. Gasps followed. The doctor stepped forward quickly. Wait, your child? Yes, Jason said. It's possible. We scanned for compatibility. We bonded, according to her culture and mine. I'm not just bringing back a survivor. I'm bringing back my family. There was silence. Then the captain stepped aside and motioned to the ship. "Come, let's talk on board." Inside the scout ship, Jason and Leora sat together while the humans asked questions. Jason explained everything, from the crash, to the ruins, to the scavenger attack, and the deep bond that had grown between them. "She couldn't walk," Jason said. "She was forgotten. But she didn't give up. She taught me about strength, not the kind you use in war, but the kind that survives even when there's nothing left." Captain Mora leaned back in her chair. "This is not standard protocol." "I know," Jason replied, "but nothing about love ever is." The doctor nodded. "Physically, she's stable. Her nervous system was damaged in the past, but human tech might help. There's no threat. And she's definitely expecting. Early stage." Leora's face turned red as she looked down shyly. Jason squeezed her hand. In the end, the decision was made. Jason and Leora would return to human space together. The ship lifted off the moon a few hours later. As it left the ruins behind, Leora looked out the window. "That was my prison," she said. "But also, the place I found you." Jason smiled. "Now it's our past, and what comes next is ours to build." They arrived at a peaceful colony, world named Haven 5. It was green, full of forests and lakes and far from the chaos of the central systems, perfect for a quiet life. The local governor had already received word from the patrol ship and prepared a private area for them. Though some people whispered behind their backs, most colonists were curious. Not angry. After all, it was rare to see a human and an alien couple. Even rarer when the alien was once a princess. Jason worked again as a mechanic in the colony workshop. People respected his skills. He fixed water systems, cargo drones, and even a few broken farming bots. Leora stayed in their small home on the hill, surrounded by trees and fresh air. The colony doctors gave her better care than Jason ever could. Slowly, she regained more movement in her upper body. Her smile returned, fuller and brighter than ever before. She even began painting, using soft colors to show her feelings. Jason would return home every evening, find her waiting with a quiet joy in her eyes, and say, "I'm home." And she would whisper, "Welcome back, my heart." Months passed. One morning, Leora sat with her hand over her belly. Jason rushed to her side. "Is everything okay?" he asked. She smiled gently. "Yes, I felt movement." Jason's heart skipped. "The baby," she nodded. "Our baby." He placed his hand on hers. For the first time, he felt it too. A soft kick, full of life. Tears came to his eyes. "We really did it." Leora nodded. "This child is proof that two worlds can become one." News of their story spread. Some called it strange. Others called it a miracle. Soon, both humans and friendly alien visitors came to the colony to meet them. They didn't come to fight or argue. They came to learn. A human ambassador arrived and said, "If a mechanic and a forgotten princess can build peace, maybe our leaders can learn something from you." Jason just laughed. "We didn't plan for peace. We just planned for love." That evening, Leora sat in her garden chair, watching the sunset with Jason beside her. She looked older now, not by years, but by experience. Stronger, calmer. "Do you regret anything?" she asked. Jason smiled. "Only that I didn't find you sooner." She rested her head on his shoulder. "You gave me a new life, not just with our child, but by seeing me, believing in me." He kissed her forehead. "You believed in yourself, too. That's what made it possible." As the stars returned to the sky, Leora whispered, "Jason?" "Yes?" "If something ever happens to me, promise me you'll raise our child to be kind, brave, and full of hope. Nothing will happen to you, Jason said quickly. But promise me anyway. Jason took her hand and said softly, I promise. Thoughts. Wind blew gently through the trees, and somewhere inside their small home, a crib stood ready. A new chapter was waiting to begin. Gomasap 945 percyfex.com. The sun rose gently over Haven 5. The sky was painted in soft orange and blue. Birds flew over green trees, and the colony was calm. A new day had begun. Inside a small house on a quiet hill, Jason Rayner stood by the window, holding his breath. Leora was in the next room, resting on the special bed the doctors had brought from the colony clinic. Her face was pale, but peaceful. She had been in labor since midnight. The medical team was careful and kind, helping her every step of the way. Jason had never felt so nervous in his life. He had fixed machines during starship crashes. He had fought scavengers and survived deadly moons. But now, waiting to become a father. His hands were shaking. Then he heard it, a cry. Small, high, full of life. His heart stopped. Jason, one of the doctors called softly. Come in. He walked into the room slowly. Leora was lying back, eyes half closed, sweat on her forehead, but she smiled when she saw him. In the doctor's arms was a tiny child, wrapped in soft fabric, skin smooth with a light violet glow, and eyes blinking open for the first time. Jason stepped closer. She's beautiful, he whispered. Leora nodded. She's ours. The doctor placed the baby into Jason's arms. His hands trembled as he held her. She was so small, so warm, and so perfect. She looks like you, Leora said. No, Jason said with a soft laugh. She looks stronger than both of us. They named her Hope, not because it sounded poetic, but because that's exactly what she was. Hope that love could bloom in ruins. Hope that two different species could become one family. Hope that something broken could still give birth to something whole. In the weeks that followed, their home changed. Leora spent her days in the garden, holding Hope in her arms, humming old Thalkiri songs. Jason added a new wing to the house, a nursery made of softwood, glowing vines, and painted stars on the ceiling. Every night, he read to Hope from both human books and alien scrolls. Stories of heroes, peace, and kindness. Hope listened with wide, curious eyes. She's already smarter than me, Jason joked one evening. Leora laughed gently. Then we must learn from her. The colony welcomed the child with open arms. At first, people were shy, some unsure how to react. But when they saw the baby giggle, hold Leora's finger, or fall asleep in Jason's arms, their doubts faded. She's not a weapon, Jason told them. She's a bridge. Visitors from nearby systems came to see the first human Thalkiri child. Some were scientists. Some were leaders. Some were parents who had lost children in wars and now found comfort in seeing peace bloom again. One, alien diplomat, said, "This child proves we don't have to fear the unknown. We just have to open our hearts." Jason agreed. Leora's health improved slowly. With help from human tech and Thalkiri memory implants, she regained some control. In her arms, she began painting more, using bright colors and flowing lines to tell their story. One of her paintings showed a broken throne, covered in flowers and vines, with a small child playing beside it. Jason framed it and hung it above Hope's crib. But not all days were easy. Some nights, Leora cried softly. She still remembered the day her people abandoned her. The weight of that pain didn't disappear completely. Jason would hold her hand and say, "You're not alone anymore." And when Leora looked into her daughter's eyes, her sadness would fade. "This child saved me," she whispered once, "even before she was born." Hope grew fast. At 6 months, she began to crawl. At 9, she spoke her first word. Da! Jason nearly dropped the tool he was holding. Leora laughed and clapped her hands. She called for you. Later that night, Hope held Leora's hand and said, "Ma." Jason smiled. She knows her family. 1 year passed. The colony held a celebration, Unity Day, to honor peace between species. Jason and Leora were invited as guests of honor. Hope wore a dress woven from earth cotton and Thalkiri silk. When they stood on stage, Jason held Hope in one arm, Leora at his side in her hover chair, dressed in bright royal colors. Jason looked at the crowd and said, "This child is not just ours. She belongs to a new world, one where kindness wins, one where love matters more than blood." The crowd cheered. Leora added, "I once thought my story had ended, but it had only just begun. I lost everything. Then I found him, and together, we created her." Hope waved her tiny hand. The people laughed and clapped. That night, as fireworks lit up the sky, Jason and Leora sat on their hill watching the stars. Hope slept in Jason's arms. "You changed my life," Leora said. "No," Jason replied. "You gave mine meaning." She smiled. "Do you remember the first words I said to you?" Jason chuckled. "Yes, help, please." And later, his smile faded into something softer, deeper. "You asked if I would have a child with you, and you said?" "I said I needed time." Leora leaned her head against his shoulder. "But you gave me more than that. You gave me a future." Jason kissed the top of her head. "No," he said. "We made that future. Together." Far above, a new star flickered into view. Jason looked up and whispered, "That one's for her." "For Hope," Leora whispered back. In a house built with care, on a world full of peace, a once-broken alien princess and a human mechanic built more than a family. They built a new beginning. And in that quiet corner of the galaxy, love had won.